good tidbit for folks that are looking to invest in real estate. Invest directly with the developer. You get a little bit better economics.
Hey, welcome back to Women Creating Wealth, the show where we help you to find more options, more money, and more fun. Because more money leads to more options, which leads to more fun. And today we have someone besides myself to talk to you and to share experiences to show you that this is a real thing that real people can do. So please welcome Julie Jumonville. She is the co-founder of the Geyser Group, which is a real estate development firm based in Austin, Texas. Julie's currency is helping others, and she is excited to share how she does that in real estate. Julie, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm very excited to hear your stories.
Awesome. Thanks, Christine, for having me. Excited to be here as well.
So, Julie, were you always a real estate entrepreneur?
No, actually, I have quite an interesting background, starting as a sandwich artist at Subway, all the way up to real estate developer now, but kind of interesting entrepreneurial story.
So that's what they're calling them, sandwich artists?
Oh, yeah. I was a sandwich artist at Subway, and I was really good at it.
Awesome. And then that led to what next?
That led to, so I actually have an interesting kind of upbringing background, have amazing parents that are still together today, but we actually had a hardship when I was growing up. We had a bankruptcy, and so I had to jump in, quite frankly, lied about my age and was a sandwich artist at 14 instead of 16 to just kind of help pay for volleyball uniforms and any extra stuff that I needed. And, that's kind of how I got started. When I was headed off to college, I talked to my dad and I said, Dad, this has been hard for our family. What major do I do to make sure this doesn't happen to me? And he said, Julie, you need to be an engineer. And that's the farthest thing probably from what I should have done, but actually ended up being a fantastic education. So off I went with some scholarship to Texas A&M and civil engineering undergrad and environmental engineering master's. Celebrated with my husband, I think 8 years after getting married, paying off those loans. So good base education, kind of an interesting route and interesting way I chose my major and where to go to college.
And then did you ever do that for a job?
You definitely do not want me to build your bridge or your road, but I did start an engineering firm called Avery Environmental Services, named after my daughter's middle name. So, definitely an entrepreneurial theme for myself. I figured out the pieces I loved about engineering and executed on those. So we put in environmental health, safety, and quality management systems at large companies all over the country. And quite frankly, a large company came to me and said, we need a female-owned business. Will you consider starting a company and start working with us? And so really that's how it all began.
It's interesting, isn't it? That I don't know if all women realize the opportunities that they have just because they are women, just because they are the majority of minority or whatever. You know what I mean? Like we're not a minority, but we're considered a minority in the workforce. So that's actually an advantage. You can get grants, you can get hired just for that reason. So if you're not already touting the fact that you're a woman-owned business, you should definitely do that.
100%.
And then how did that bring you to where you are today?
Yeah, great. So engineering firm, sold off those contracts and kind of worked. That was my cash flow play. So, that kind of helped keep our family afloat, and started a second company, invented a product and did that kind of nights, weekends, and just when kids were in bed. And so had cash flow and hopefully what would soon turn out to be an equity play. The second company was a consumer products company for moms and babies. And I carried around a pink presentation and raised $5 million with a partner from some folks all over the country. And I'll tell you what, that's one of the hardest things I've ever done. And eventually sold that company to Reckitt Benckiser in 2019. While we were in that sales process, as you mentioned at the beginning, my currency is helping people. And so, here in Austin, folks would come to me and say, hey, we're looking for an office space. Can you recommend someone to help us? We're trying to sell a block downtown. Do you know someone that would potentially want to buy that block downtown? And I finally said, you know what? There's something here. So my partner and I have invested in some other founders, other companies. And instead of build it and they will come, we decided to kind of basically, figure this out and see if we couldn't start working on some projects and developing some projects together. And that's really how we got started about 5 years ago.
So you've leveraged your experience as a sandwich artist and turned that into, because I feel like there's just a lot of creativity in that process, right? Do you get an opportunity to use some of your creativity?
I do. Real estate is interesting. So I feel like there's a lot of opportunity for disruption in real estate, and it's kind of one of my favorite things to do. I mean, it's just, you kind of look at what real estate websites, they've got, landscape, towers, buildings in the back, just not really interacting with their investors, with their customers. So it's a lot of fun, and we have a really nimble team that does let me actually insert a lot of my creativity into what we're doing. And it's a lot of fun. I'm trying to think of a recent example. I'll think of one while we're talking. They definitely, are great with listening to my ideas, and we actually implement some of them and they make a difference.
Excellent. Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
It
So what
is.
does a typical day sort of look like for you? It sounds like you have a lot of different types of projects that you're involved in.
Yeah, great question. So at the Geyser Group, we are a developer, started out partnering with folks in Austin on a lot of our projects. And now the majority of our projects, are just us. We develop, we go find these projects, we raise money, and then we develop them ourselves. Austin has been kind of boomtown here for a while. We've, had Tesla and Facebook and other large groups kind of move to Austin. So we've been focused on, just creating living spaces and some of that affordable living spaces for folks coming to town. So the majority of our projects are multifamily. We're probably in process of building about 1,000 multifamily doors in East Austin. And we also do infill townhome projects. And I'm really proud because our team is super creative. We usually pick up projects that maybe have a little bit of hair on them or a little bit difficult. And we layer different types of structures as well to make sure we get that affordable housing component in, which I'm also very proud of. I want to make sure that our teachers and folks that are having to move further and further out actually have some options within the city limits.
And it's huge now. I mean, the cost of materials had just gone up so much that affordable housing it's challenging to try to create that. You've got people charging premiums for all the different types of professions that are working on a property. Their prices have gone so high. The material prices have gone so high, not to mention the real estate that you're purchasing, right? To build and create these units. Are they more from scratch, or is it more of a retrofit type of it?
Great question, Christine. And to your point, just to kind of put a fine point on it, construction costs, material costs, availability of labor, it's quite challenging. It's kind of make your day pricing with contractors, and just finding, the availability of contractors that will stay, on your job and finish your job as well.
Right.
Most of our projects is land. So we've done some adaptive reuse, and we've got a project in San Antonio that will be an adaptive reuse for us, but we're pretty much ground up as far as our projects. So we're buying dirt and developing from ground up.
And that process, right? I mean, I think of the permitting process and all the approvals and testing and stuff like that. What is your sort of arc from the time that you say, oh, we love this land, we're definitely going to buy it, to when you're actually handing someone the keys?
Another great question. That has changed dramatically. So with COVID, backlogs in the city, just rapid growth, like crazy growth in Austin, those timeframes, to get permitting done, which typically would have been 18 months plus, is we're seeing 24 and above. 24 to 36 months. And then, there's just not enough people that are working at the city any longer. So, I feel for those guys as well. I mean, they've just got this huge backlog, everyone kind of developing in Austin. So it's definitely become challenging. And, we're basically going in and raising money for these projects, right? So, typically with some of the stuff we do, we need to be stabilized and then selling that asset at year 5. So, we buy the dirt, we go through diligence, and, by the time we start that permitting process, we're at least a couple of years in, if not further along. And so, it's just getting harder and harder to develop within specific timeframes. And there's just so many different unknowns as well. Also, just land basis. We need things to underwrite. Things got so crazy over the last year here in Austin. We're smart. We are buying smart, and we're layering, like I said, different types of programs that the city, provides as far as affordable housing to, maybe not pay property taxes, et cetera, because we're willing to get, do 50% of our project as affordable housing. But, lots of challenges as far as time, permitting, and delivering a project these days.
And can you talk a little more about the fundraising piece? Because you did fundraising for the company that you sold, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you raised your $5 million, and now you're doing some capital, gathering for these kind of projects. Yes. How do you go about that? How do you go about just presenting these projects so that people are interested in them?
Great question. So we have an amazing development team. So when we identify a parcel that we think makes sense, our analyst and our team will absolutely do just a quick model underwriting, and we have several different steps and different gates that we have to pass before we even bring the opportunity forward to our investment committee. Mm-hmm. And so that team will take a look and, runs all those numbers to not get too much in the weeds. And then the investment committee, we have to have a majority vote to bring a project forward. And then, we do a deck. We typically raise money. So the GPs, which is myself and our partners, and we also encourage and allow our employees to invest at the general partner level, which is a lot of fun. It's one of my favorite things when I get a Slack and, our analyst who's 24 is like, I'm putting 5,000 in this deal. I mean, just amazing stuff. But
great.
It's really cool. So GP, we always at least take 10%, of the deal, because if we're not invested in it and don't believe in the deal, then obviously we shouldn't expect that anyone else would.
Right.
And then we do an LP raise, so limited partner raise. We create a deck, we get that out. We have a database of over kind of 2,000 folks. We've had some successful projects here in Austin, and it's so fun because we have a lot of repeat investors, and we have a lot of entrepreneurs that are investing with us as well, which I'm really actually proud of. Christine, who was you met earlier, helps us kind of run that process, and we answer questions. And these days, our raises happen pretty quickly. We've got a lot of trusted folks as we've performed in the past, and a raise will take 4 to 5 weeks for a property. One thing that's interesting about Geyser's deals is that our investors only pay one level of promote. I don't know if would be interesting for people to understand. And the contrast is if you're investing in a real estate fund, you're paying the developer, so a Geyser, as well as that fund manager. So it's kind of called double promote. So when you invest in deals directly with a developer or with Geyser, for example, you only have that one level of promote and kind of better economics. Promote is only paid if the deal, goes well, and after investors, secure a preferred return. That's another interesting thing about our structure, and also just a good tidbit for folks that are looking to invest in real estate. Invest directly with the developer, you get a little bit better economics.
Yeah. And do you think, this is kind of an off the cuff, it's a question I don't know the answer to, so maybe I shouldn't ask it, but do you think that this is a good way for people who might say, well, someday I would like to do a project, maybe a little project, but is this a way that people would actually learn something through the process about how it all works?
We are absolutely, and I'm glad you asked that question. We actually have an investor, she invests with us quite a bit. And she said, I want to learn more. Can I, so she was investing, some decent dollars with us. And she said, can I sit in? Can I learn more? What would that look like? And we've absolutely allowed her to do that. And we were honored, right, that she wanted a little bit deeper level of detail, just kind of figured out how to have her sit in on a couple of key meetings, our underwriting process, et cetera. And we were happy to do it. So typically, if someone asks, we're happy to share that. And what you're going to learn, we're going to send an investment deck. I can run folks through what that model looks like, what returns look like, explain, or have our analysts help with that as well, explain, how that works. And so you definitely learn a lot in that process, but we definitely would take it one step further. That's one of our favorite things to do is teach others what we're up to.
Cool. Yeah, that's great fun. And that's, because I recommend to people, if you think you want to buy a place and rehab it, then go work with someone and help them do that. Right. And this would be even an order of magnitude more
Right.
interesting and, fascinating. And so do you take the general public as, like just somebody who might be listening who thinks, man, that sounds so exciting. I really would like to invest. Is that something that someone could do, or is it just a certain category of people?
Absolutely. We have an amazing marketing fellow that joined us after graduating from UT, and he actually ran some LinkedIn ads and acquired three investors for one deal. People that were just looking for opportunities, wanted opportunities in Austin, and I'm pretty proud of Jorge because helped bring in 3 new people to our network. So absolutely, we, can go to our website, thegeysergroup.com, and, you can just fill out a form, and basically I'll probably be the one calling you back to introduce myself. Just see,
Excellent.
Yeah, exactly. Just see how we can help. And like I said, currency is helping people. So, no harm, no foul if someone doesn't want to invest and just wants to learn more. Christina, I wanted to mention to you the gal that asked if she could dive a little deeper, that was an investor for Geyser, actually started a group called the Augustine Group here in Austin. It's a female only investment group. And her thesis and idea is she's been investing for years. She's very knowledgeable in the real estate space, but she also invests in funds and consumer products, et cetera. She realized that she wanted to help teach. She gets a lot of questions, and so do I. And so she wanted to help teach women. It's okay if you don't know what IRR is. It is internal rate of return. Let me explain it to you. So we meet monthly. We have speakers. We are all learning and investing together. And, when I got started, and I still can't invest massive dollars, right? So we pool our capital together and invest. We set up a special purpose vehicle, an SPV, invest in different, opportunities, real estate, consumer products. I've learned so much, and it's been such an amazing experience. And one thing too, I think women have a little bit of a disadvantage on deal flow. I wasn't seeing, or maybe it's because I didn't raise my hand and say, I'd like to see deals. I can't invest in everything, but, I'd like to see some great, opportunities. And so I feel like our deal flow, through this group of women and us kind of being vocal about wanting to learn, invest together, work together, and being able to meet some of these minimums has given us a lot of great opportunity. It's one thing I'm really proud of and love being involved with.
Excellent. Now, when you just got started in the real estate space, do you feel like it's different for women? You mentioned one way in which you didn't feel like you were maybe an equal partner at the table when people were considering deals, but are there other ways in which you think women maybe have either a disadvantage or perhaps an advantage in the real estate space?
I would say real estate in Austin, because I'm just going to speak to what I know, really locally, is it's male dominated. It really, and you can look at the stats and the numbers across the country, right? And see that, and totally fine, totally get it. I feel like most women that I see in real estate are, agents, right? Residential agents. Maybe I know of some fabulous commercial agents that do an amazing job, here in Austin, and you don't see tons of female developers. And so I think there's just a missing, I just don't think there's enough awareness, like when you're in college, for instance, that, hey, commercial real estate could be a great career for you. Maybe it's just an agent, or maybe it's going deeper. It's not anything that anyone ever talked to me about, and I was an engineer, I was a civil engineer. That'd be a great group of folks, to say, hey, have you thought about, considering a career in real estate? I am seeing more real estate kind of master's programs, like Texas A&M has one now. I am seeing a shift and seeing younger women, starting to get interested, and actually am getting some college girls reaching out and saying, hey, do you have an internship? Can I shadow? I'd love to learn more, which of course is my favorite thing to do. I feel like there's not many of us in the profession. As far as disadvantages, I feel like I'm taken seriously. I'm an engineer, so due diligence is something that, obviously goes hand in hand with my major and my experience. I also feel like, I've been in Austin since '98. I've helped a lot of people in this town. And so I have just a natural, kind of credibility through being an entrepreneur and helping kids get internships and jobs. And, can you help me get my kid into this school? So all those coffees, which was way too many coffees early in the day, have translated and really helped me a lot with calling an owner that's had a property for many generations and saying, will you let me buy it? And they said, you know what, Julie, we know you, we love you. Yes, let's talk about it. So, with finding properties and investors, I feel like I've had a lot of success just with those two pieces of real estate. So
excellent. I feel like it's more of as you said, planting the idea, planting the seed, and maybe you're not going to find somebody, but I think real estate has that anyway, right? You go to a financial planner, they're never going to say, well, why don't you go buy some real estate? Right. I mean,
right.
It's just one of those things that you almost have to learn about through some backdoor method. So I guess I don't necessarily blame people for not suggesting that you get into commercial real estate, because I think a lot of people just it's not on their radar screen. But it's good to hear that people are, I think it's not the default, I guess is what I want to say, that it's not necessarily the default that a person is going to work with you and they're going to assume that you know something about building, that you're going to know something about. I'm in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about this guy that I hired the other day just to come in and just do a little tiny thing. Yeah, I just needed a piece of Luan on the back of some cabinets. And I just said, I just want to, and I thought I had used the word Luan, but then later in the conversation, he started explaining to me what Luan was. And I thought, okay.
Right.
Yeah, I think I already told you I wanted that there. Like, you don't have to explain to me how this works. That is my chop saw over there. It just like, there's just a sort of an expectation that, we're going to have to educate the little lady about how all this stuff works. But you're right. Once you start to work with someone, once they get to know you and they understand, oh, gee, this person knows a lot and I can respect them, then I guess I just don't think it's necessarily the default position, whereas you might assume that a man knows something that you might assume that a woman doesn't, by that same person who assumes a man knows something might assume that the woman just doesn't have a clue.
No, I completely agree with that. And wealth managers or folks that manage your securities, manage your money, if you think about it, you're not aligned, right? They are making money off of what you have invested in equities, right? And so it's very rare that you hear someone talk about alternatives, right? Granted, yes, they're more risky, but real estate in Austin, Christine, I did 2 raises, one for $5 million and another for $6 million, kind of in this heat of this recession and time frame. And I was nervous about, because people usually sell equities to invest in real estate, but quite frankly, people were excited to kind of diversify and have, something else in their portfolio. Yeah. And so, at the Geyser Group, I mentioned, we have a lot of entrepreneurs kind of in our network, and we are doing probably more education than normal with this group of folks, but it's an honor, it's a pleasure to do that. And because my 2 partners, Dan and Matt, are more entrepreneurial and have been successful in business, that tends to be who our LP, limited partner profile is. And it's really not the same as what you would typically find for other developers. You're typically raising from folks that actually have some decent real estate knowledge and experience and have typically invested in real estate before. So I feel like we kind of, feel that void, and that we are capturing folks that would not normally invest in real estate, educating them and then bringing them alongside of us and making them some money, which I love. Those are my favorite calls to make.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fantastic. I love what you're doing. I love it. It's fantastic. So Julie, I'm not suggesting that anybody should try to do exactly what you're doing, but if someone had an inkling that they wanted to sort of go in this direction and go toward this, this idea of maybe doing not a syndication, but some kind of like just a partnership where they got a couple people together and did a project or something. I guess if someone were interested in taking the next step from just being an entrepreneur to being a real estate involved entrepreneur, do you have any advice for them? What kind of things you might suggest that they do to start or to educate themselves? Obviously, I think they should call you right away.
I'm happy to take some calls. I would love to share my experience and would be happy to do that. So it's pretty easy to find me. I think I'm listed, my email is listed directly on the website. I'm trying to think, like, I didn't read any books or anything like that. I'm a big believer in the power of just authentic networking and asking lots of questions.
Yeah.
So there's a national organization called ULI that's a real estate group. If you just Google search in your kind of area, real estate investing, usually some great resources will pop up. So I had my now 20-year-old, we did a real estate project together. We bought $100,000 house. I mean, obviously financed it, that type of thing, but he told me he wanted to make money while he was at school and he was in high school. So I made him listen. I said, before I'll talk to you, you need to listen to old school Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is great. Residual income, the power of residual income, great book. That's just a little side note and funny story, but there's tons of resources out there. And, I would absolutely make myself available to talk to anyone about how to get started. Unfortunately, because I didn't go to a book, I just started networking and talking to people about real estate. I talked to, I'm sure, folks that are listening today at least know a residential realtor, right?
Right.
And, talk to them. And I believe in starting, kind of small. So maybe it's an investment house like Reese and I did, right? That creates some cash flow. You get to learn a lot, in that process, and then work your way up. I love just having as many coffees and conversations as possible with people that are in that space. I love the power of LinkedIn. You look at your LinkedIn and you'll have people in your network that you never even realized that are in real estate. So my philosophy is talk to as many people as possible, and I will put myself in that bucket. I'm happy to do it.
Excellent. Fantastic. I don't think you could get a better resource. But you can call me too. I'm a residential real estate agent doing my first commercial project. So I'll be happy to help people as well.
I would love to ask that question back to you. What resources would you recommend going from residential to, a small commercial project?
Yeah, I should have talked to a lot more people. I just thought it was going to be pretty much the same. And there were a lot of different rules, a lot of different sorts of things that, you can do as a homeowner or, a person who just has their home improvement contractor's license or something that you can't do with a commercial project. So absolutely, I should have called you. I should have had more coffee.
Well, I mean, to your point, I think it's just great talking to as many people as possible, because you always learn something that you probably didn't already know. So
especially, and don't discount the value of talking to people in your area, because there might be some nuances about the project or about the town or whatnot that you might not be aware of before you start the project. So someone who's done what you're doing, right? Just, success leaves clues. Find someone who's done what you want to do and talk to them, right? Maybe they'll answer.
I love it. That's great.
So Julie, what question do you wish I would have asked you that I just have failed to ask, that something we didn't touch on that you would like to cover? Is there anything that you want to share?
That's a great question. I did touch on this some, but I do believe that it's really important for women, especially, to just build a healthy network of folks that they can talk to really about anything, right? So it could be, personal, professional, business, but I have relied on my network throughout 26 years of marriage, three very different careers, including, some really great mentors that have been fantastic along the way. And so I just don't be shy, ask a lot of questions and just build that network. You'll be so surprised how an opportunity can come from that. And quite frankly, that's where Geyser came from. That's where the Geyser Group, I was meeting with my mentors and people that I really trust, who's also a partner. We were talking about, hey, there's all these people coming to us asking about if we can help them and make recommendations in real estate. And we decided to pull our resources and see what we could do and see if we could help people. And that's why the Geyser Group is here today. And so I'm really, really proud of that. But that literally came from thoughtful conversation in my network.
Yeah. Listening to people, recognizing that you don't know everything, and just like trying to gather as much info as you can, while also hopefully giving back and sharing your knowledge with others.
Exactly.
Which obviously you do. And I'm just encouraging listeners to do the same thing.
I love it.
Julie, thank you so much. I love talking with you. I love your energy. I love your attitude. You're fantastic.
Thank you so much, Christine. Happy holiday week. And it was such a pleasure to meet you. And it sounds like we should catch up for a virtual coffee and
Sounds
talk
great.
about some real estate.